Creative Labs, to me, was part of me growing up through technology. And they started way back in 1981, they say. And I know for a fact by 1983 or 1984 or 1985, give or take, that there I was working with Creative Labs cards, sound cards at the time. But of course, Creative Labs moved on so far since, say, 1985. Everything's different, you know. Now, one of the things about Creative Labs, I'll just talk about it for a few seconds, few minutes, if you will. Creative Labs really came from Singapore. And Singapore is an area of the world where I had a lot of involvement back at the time. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you wouldn't think that, knowing me as you know me today, if you look at my channel. Yeah, but certainly I did have quite a lot of input with Singapore back in the mid-80s, until about September 88. So we're going to have a look at the Soundblaster G8, because, well, Creative Labs is a pretty good company, and I know that. And by the way, before I go any further, just for clarity and transparency, they did send me this to review. Did I even want it? No, of course not. But I like to do reviews of Creative Labs products, and I've done 2 or 3 in the past, involving my grandson in the games and things like that. Well, this is no real exception, except it could be. It says here it's a dual input USB gaming DAC. And on the back, gotta have a read, haven't we? Key features: seamless mixing and control of 2 audio sources with dual USB inputs. So you could use it effectively for other things. So let's go a little bit closer and take a look at the Soundblaster G8. Now, as most of you guys will know, often I pull the unit apart and take a quick look at what's going on inside, and I think that's a very pertinent thing, and the reason it's pertinent is quality matters. If you buy any product and you don't know what's inside it, well, how can you say it's quality? Obviously you've got to know what you're doing, so don't just strip yours down. But if I look inside this one and it all looks great, I'm pretty sure all the others will be the same. So let's go and have a quick look inside. Okay, well, I wouldn't have a go at doing that yourself. It's quite a difficult task to do. But you can see there, if you look at the main PCB, it's all very well made. Everything's in the right place. Looks a quality device, in fact, in my opinion. So there is a chip down below, of which I'll fish out an image, and we can have a quick chat about that a bit later, but not for much. I just wanted to show you inside and the sort of quality that you're actually buying. Every time I've looked at Creative Labs, even back in, quote, the old days in 1985 or thereabouts, that quality was there then. They were never cheap boards, but factually really good. And you know, you might be able to bend this device into audio, other audio mixing, as well as games. So it's really got a sort of 2-pronged attack, in my opinion. You might not, of course, but that's how life goes. So I'm just going to screw it back together, and then we'll take a look at the controls. Well, here I am back after that short intro of the quality of the inside of this unit. You've got to remember, you know, it's not a hyper cheap unit. This one costs about, I think it's about £129 in England. You might find it a little bit cheaper somewhere, but you know, it's not the cheapest device around. But there again, I guess you get what you pay for. That's usually the case. It is with the equipment that I'm showing people. So let's just quickly look at the top. What we've got here is this is like a balance switch between game and voice, if you're using microphones and things like that, and other audio input. It's nice and simple to balance between the two, and I can tell you now, it feels really good with an indent in the middle. Oh, quite nice. At the top here, you've got this volume, and it's a really smooth and nice volume control. I might sound picky, but you know, some people could mention, oh, it's got problems and that. Well, this one, is absolutely fixed really well onto the unit, and I think that matters. It shows the sort of quality right from the off. Well, what else we got on the top? Well, we got this SBX button between off and on and another on. We'll come back to that. We've got a mode button that can be on or off, and the mode will switch it into like a bypass mode, if you will, or through the rest of it, which I'll come back to. And here we've got this HP SPK, which again I'll cover a little bit later in the software. Well, down in the front here we've got a microphone socket and a headphone socket, which is always nice to see. Around the back, which is most important, the I/O is absolutely critical on these things. Well, first off, you've got this HDMI ARC, which is often used in sort of home entertainment systems and that sort of thing. Don't use it myself, but that's just life. Then we've got a USB 1, which also handles the DC power. We've got a USB 2, and both of those are USB-C type, which is, again, very critical. We've got, well, I call them light pipes. A lot of people just call them optical out and optical in and that sort of thing. I call them light pipes because I'm old-fashioned. Think of me like that. And then we've got a line out and a line in. You can see those two there. We've got low gain and high gain, and we've got optical in or ARC. Now, one of the things to note about the DAC and HDMI, it's HDMI 2, which isn't the very latest HDMI standard, but you know, still covers it, still all good. What more can you ask for? And bearing in mind this is a DAC type of device, you know, what goes on inside really matters, and I just want to cover the point about trying to find the actual information about which DACs are used internally. Exactly. I tried to contact Creative Labs 3 or 4 times to get that very simple answer. I didn't want to strip the unit right the way down so I could go and read the chip numbers myself. But you know what? Here I am near enough 2 weeks down the road and I still don't have the answer. And I've now given up with that. So if you want to know which DAC is used, well, I can't tell you. It's that sad, really. You've seen inside the unit, but I couldn't quite get to where I wanted to get. Nevertheless, the quality was fine. Suffice to say that the DAC used inside this unit is 32-bit and can handle 384 kHz, which is very good for things like gamers and that sort of thing, and your movies and the rest of it. And it's probably fine for studio work as well, if you wanted to use it for the studio. Me, well, you know, this device was sent to me to review. I haven't bought it. I'm the first guy to admit that. But at the end of the day, I like to do a genuine, real review. And anything else, well, you'll see lots of reviews of different products out there where they've been sent to people. And they don't always quite tell the truth. But here you're going to hear my opinion about what I think of the Soundblaster G8. I know that plugging it into a games console, it's been on an Xbox, sadly, and it sounds great to me, but actually recording it's another story. So I'm not going to bother going back to the Xbox again. Okay, so one of the things that I like about the Soundblaster G8, you're not going to believe me, but I use headphones like these. Now these are Bayer DT880 Pros, and they're in the hundreds of ohms because they're studio headphones. That's what I use in a studio. That adds up, doesn't it? Well, what you'll find is that a lot of equipment will use very low ohm range headphones. So the likes of, I don't know, 16 ohms or 20 ohms or something like that. And of course, when you put in a 2 or 3 or 400 ohm headset into the unit, well, often you'll have very, very low audio. But in the case of the Soundblaster G8, you will find that it can support quite easily a 600 ohm set of headphones. And mark my words, that means that you can use some of the best sort of headphones around. And I think that's a really important aspect, especially when you bear in mind this is a DAC type of device and it's used for voice meter audio. I mean, how hard does it have to be? It's a brilliant option. I know it sounds stupid, but trust me, it's excellent. Now this unit includes a thing called an X-amp biamplifier, which is great for the volume and the clarity of the audio. And I think, you know, you might argue that, well, when you're in a game it doesn't matter so much, but I'd argue that it does matter. And when you're in a studio environment like this one, well, of course it matters. That's what it's about, quality. I just know that, you know, given a little bit of thought behind this G8, that in the studio it can be quite a useful device in its own right. I mean, some of the effects that are in here, you could spend a long time faffing around with other equipment, really, trying to achieve what this can do at the press of a button. So let's cover a couple of those chips. There's a Winbond chip in there, which it says here is a Winbond Electronics, details diode Schottky 40 volt 500 milliamp, blah blah blah. Two of them. There's a high performance 32-bit microcontroller based on ARM Cortex M3, and that's an LPC 1830 FET 100 or FET 100. It's a high performance, cost effective Cortex M3 microcontroller featuring 200 kilobits or kilobytes of SRAM and advanced peripherals including Ethernet, high-speed USB 2 host, that is, OTG device and CAN 2.0B, whatever that is. It operates at speeds of up to 180 megahertz and it features two new configurable peripherals, an SPI flash interface and a state configurable timer. All members of the series include a wake-up interrupt controller, allowing automatic wake-up from any priority interrupt, as well as 4 reduced power modes. It goes on. I'm not going to bore you with too much of that, but there it is. That's one of the things that's in it. Let's look a bit further. Now, there are other chips in there, but I'm not going to spend any more time on it, just except to give you that overview of some of the things that are inside it, and you've seen the quality yourself. Now, some of the features that this thing's got are basically in its software. You won't get at it just willy-nilly from here, but it's in the software. It has a mode called Crystal Voice, and that really enhances the clarity. It can reduce things like noise and stuff like that. It can also solve microphone echo, and anybody that's got a couple of guys with microphones and earphones and the rest of it, maybe in the game scenario, can know very well the problems with microphone echo. But Crystal Voice does that and can do a lot more things as well. And if you have got multiple microphone guys, you can actually make an adjustment for the game voice, mixing between the members for the chat level. And again, when you're in a game, that's critical. It's less important for me in this studio, but you know, you might even be using this device for things relating to streaming and stuff like that. Who knows? Now, this thing also has a thing called a scout mode. Yeah, well, that's something a bit different, especially if you're not familiar with soundblaster gear. You'll be saying to me, what's he talking about? Well, scout mode is really most useful, I guess, for when you're in the games. And often you'll have these sort of, if you're in a multiplayer game, you'll hear guys, or you'll hear footprints in the background, or not. And the truth is that you won't hear footprints in the background unless, unless you're in SBX mode. When it's in this blue mode, that's scout mode. When it's there, well, it's turned off. And when it's there, it's in its turned on mode for SBX. And that's it for that one. This mode here, this second button here, really that's all about a direct feed or a non-direct feed. You notice it flips back into this one. And this button here is for headphones or speakers. Take your pick, one or the other. Yeah, it's got a load of different things that you can do with it. but I'm just going to go through the sort of basics of what's involved. So if we start at the top here, the device is the Soundblaster G8. It's connected to USB 1, as you can see on screen there. And you can go and edit this and mess around and do all that sort of stuff. It's got a number of modes, like sound mode, effects off or effects for gaming or music or movies or adventure. And I did say in the review that you could use it for these other things. I know it says it's for games, but seriously, you can use it for a lot of other things. Let's have a look under Playback. Now, I've got mine set up to headphones, as you can see there. And you can do a test. Now, you may or may not be able to hear this. Let's bring up the cans up here, because I don't think it's coming through the laptop as it should be. So let's see what we get. Not much. Let's bring that up louder. But let's carry on. Let's have a look down here. For the audio quality, if you're using speakers, here they are. You can have 44-100 Hertz, which is CD quality, all the way up to 96,000 Hertz, or 96 kilohertz, should I say. So you can see it there. So you've got a massive quality involved there. If we click on this little bit here, we can choose the surround mode. Now this is currently set up for 7.1 surround. There's also a 5.1 or just a plain old stereo. If you're not that enthusiastic, well, I think you probably will be. Let's say done on that and leave it as it is. So also down here you've got the volume for the microphone or for the speaker, or in our case it's set up for headphones. Either way, that handles the output and that handles the input. Let's look a bit further. Next we've got recording. So we click on that. Next you can see it's to the external mic is set to 48,000 Hertz. And you can have it set to all them different settings. There's lots to go at. And it's the same with line in, or SPDIF, or external, I've already done external mic, or what you hear. That's just the same. So there is a lot you can do with the quality, particularly, in this recording section. If we look at the other settings, if we click down here, on the device, we can reset the device if we want to. We can take a look at the firmware and check if it's current. So I'm just going to click that. And you see straight away it comes up to date, because I've already done previously the version updates. Now you can check the driver as well, but that's probably already been updated because I saw it do it. If we check it, yeah. So they're both up to date. And what I can say is, for me, on Windows 10, this driver and the rest of it seems to work a little bit nicer than when it's on Windows 11. That doesn't mean it won't work fine on yours. It means it didn't work fine on mine. But my drivers on my PC, well, my other laptop, for Windows 11 have been messed around with so much, so don't worry about that. You'll notice also that you've got a section here for help called Product Help Contact Us, or Contact Technical Support. They're there to help you. And I can tell you, if you give them a call, they're all friendly and nice. You can log in as well, look at your account, user info, blah, 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 blah. You can see it there. I'm not going to do anything with that, am I? Of course not. Special on camera. Let's carry on. Go back to device. Now what you'll notice down here is you've got a load of these various things that you can choose. Let's choose mixer, for example. This can set up the various recording levels, as you might want to change them. You've got a monitoring, which again you might want to change, SPDIF in, external mic, or line in. And then we've got playback, and it says speakers. So we'll have a look in there. We can balance left and right. We can do the same with most of these things. You can see them. So let's go back. That's the mixer section. We've got an Acoustic Engine. Let's have a quick look in there. It's on surround, and you can turn these other effects on and off. I'm not going to, but you get a good idea of what they are. These are the SBX effects. Then we've got an equalizer. It's currently turned off, but you could grab it. If we were to turn that on, you can grab it and do this sort of thing. Yeah. Once again, I'm not really going to change it. I just wanted to show you. Moving on a bit further, crystal voice, noise reduction, acoustic echo cancellation, smart volume, sounds good, voice morph into somebody else, maybe. Let's have a look. Yeah, male, female, kid, elderly. I'll be able to actually sound like my grandma. What do you mean? You sound like a grandma already. Let's turn that off. Yeah, well, you get the idea of those. We've got a direct mode. Gives you audio in its purest form, direct from the source. All audio effects will not be applied to output. So, well, you might want to do that at some stage. You've got a scout mode, and this is designed to help you hear beyond what you see, such as footsteps, speech, weaponry handling, all that sort of good stuff that's in the games in particular. But you might apply it to movies as well, you know. Some audio effects won't be applied to the output. Yeah, you've got this hotkey to assign a hotkey so you can flip it on and off and things like that. I'm not too worried about that, but you get the idea. We've got a decoder. Play your Dolby Digital media with ease using the integrated decoder. This is on, well, defaults. And lastly, we've covered the mixer. And to be honest, that's pretty much, if I go to edit there, we can take some of these off. But that's pretty much it. What else can I say? I didn't go down the application in here. Now for language, it does support a number of languages. I see the ones here. There's actually a whole pile of them. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now on that one. Leave it at Windows default. And for the appearance, we can have it actually with a light window or a dark window. And I have checked that before. It works fine, by the way. Application version, you can check that as well. We can auto download it when it is available, and I know it's current, so I'm not going to go and do that. But once again, you come back to this help on the screen with the general support, the contact us, and contact techie support, and all the rest of it. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty, it's not bad really. And you know, when you come back down here, if you want to flip to speakers just like that, you've done it. And you want to flip back to headphones just like that, you've done it. So that's about it for the whole of the software. Okay, so what's the warranty like on this thing? You should be asking, really. I can only see it as being 1 year, but I could be wrong. I can't see anywhere else where it says something different. So I'm going to assume that there's 1 year for now. If it's any different, if you post it down in the text, that's fine, no problem. And if I find any more information out, I'll let you know. Well, what about the cost of this thing? Well, I might have covered it a bit earlier, somewhere in the video. But this one has a retail price in the UK of about £129. As I've said, maybe earlier, you might get it a little bit cheaper if you fish around, but who knows. So what about overall conclusions, Tony? Well, I like the multiple connections at the back of this device because, well, the fact is, the more connections you got, the better the device, in my opinion. You can never have too much I/O. That's a fact, especially in a studio environment as well. You know, it can be rather daunting if you haven't got the right connections. That goes on a lot in most of my experience with studios. Yeah, it's also got this X amp, this discrete biamp, and it drives the headphones really well, which I've said, and it might not be important to you, but for a lot of guys I'm sure that is. Yeah, the build quality's also very, very good. Yeah, there's a lack of info though of the exact D2A conversions. The audio is quite adequate, and in fact it's good in a studio also. I can't easily demonstrate all this in the time available, but just take my word for it because I don't make things up. But what I would say is for its cost, I would say it's pretty good value. You are getting value for money. It's not the best product in the world, but neither is it a slouch. It's a good value product for what you're paying, in my opinion, especially with all the I/O stuck on the back and the surround sounds and the this and the that and all those other features that are incorporated in the included software. Well, there you have it, the Soundblaster G8, and yeah, great little device for what it is, and you should try one. If you're into games, well, that's another story. I've tried some of the earlier Soundblaster equipment before, and that's down always in the text. There's links to my other reviews, and you'll find those interesting if you're into the game stuff. But for the studio stuff, I thought it'd be a change just to take a closer look at it in a sort of studio environment, because I don't see anybody doing anything like that, and there's nothing to stop you, of course. Oh, one last thing, it does actually come with a couple of cables, but it doesn't come, from what I see, with any kind of power supply, so there, and expect it to be completely compliant with all the regulations and the rest of it that's out there. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope it's an interesting video because it's something a little bit different than guitar amps or guitars or pickups or that sort of thing, and it could be useful, seriously, could be useful in a studio environment if you want to experiment a little bit and that sort of thing. So what about the score, Tony? Where would you give it as a score? Well, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Well, what do you mean? It's not 10 out of 10. Well, no, it isn't. It's an 8 out of 10. And the reason it's an 8 out of 10 is I really could not get the information that I think is very important for anybody looking to buy a DAC type of device. They want to know what the DACs are. I mean, anyway, I've said enough on it. That's it for now. I'll see you next time in the next review, which might be, I won't tell you what it is. See you soon. Now get out of here.